What would you do if you discovered a secret about your spouse that is shocking? In the opening scene of Why Did I Get Married? We see Dr. Agnew Patricia, a psychologist and best-selling author, stand before a classroom of students entertaining questions about her best-selling book, Why Did I Get Married? In the next scene, we see Terry, a pediatrician married to Diane, a top litigator at her firm. The both of them set out to the vacation venue, leaving their child Kenya behind. Diane receives a work call from Monica, her secretary, but her husband instructs her to keep her phone away. This turns into an argument because Diane feels he's controlling. One of the students interrupts Patricia, asking if Sheila is still married to Mike. Though she doesn't like to discuss her friends, Patricia decides to answer the girl's question. Meanwhile, Sheila, a housewife, her husband Mike, an entrepreneur, and Trina, her friend, board a plane to the vacation venue. On getting to the plane, Mike takes a seat beside their friend Trina, while Sheila sits in front of another man. The man is unable to cope having to sit beside Sheila, who has occupied the whole space. He gets up angrily to lay a complaint to the airline. And soon enough, one of the airline staff comes over asking Sheila to step down from the plane. He informs her that according to their policy, someone her size has to pay for 2 seats. Mike nods his head in agreement and openly expresses how glad he is that someone else is telling her to lose some weight. He hands her some cash and encourages her to take a bus down to the vacation venue. Sheila, who is on the verge of tears, walks out of the plane. One of Patricia's students asks a question again about her friend Angela, and why she decided to keep a lady like her as her friend, despite how educated she is. Patricia lets out a smile as she reveals that Angela has worked out her relationship with her husband Marcus, and she has her hair care line. Next we see Angela, the hair salon owner, and Marcus, a former pro football player, on the train to the vacation venue as well, after dropping off Marcus's kids at his baby mama's. Angela threatens to harm Keisha the next time she talks to her like she's crazy. Some white people sitting behind them ask that she reduce the intensity with which she's shouting, and Angela gets pissed. She transfers her anger to them as she gets up from her seat to dish out some words. Back at the class, one of the students asks about Patricia and her husband's relationship. She has read the book and knows for sure that she also had turbulent times in her marriage. Patricia smiles and points towards her husband, who walked into the class a while ago, suggesting the young lady ask her husband that question directly. All the students turn in surprise to find Gavin, an architect, by the door right behind them. To the hearing of all, Gavin reveals they will be late for their flight if they don't leave right away. The students applaud Patricia as she hands her bag to her husband, and they walk out of the class almost immediately, bidding them goodbye. Diane and Terry are the first to arrive at Lake Leland, where they will be vacationing. She gushes over the beauty of the scenery immediately as she steps out of the car. The sheriff, by the name of Troy, welcomes them and hands over the keys to the house. He asks them to reach out to him at the sheriff's station down the mountain in case they need anything. Diane and Terry get into the house, and before long she is asleep already. Terry finds her fast asleep. He moves close when Monica starts calling her phone. He answers the call and politely informs her not to call his wife while they are on vacation. He hangs up the call and places a kiss on Diane's forehead before stepping out. Patricia and her husband Gavin arrive at the vacation house next, and they meet Terry. Once he reveals that Diane is upstairs sleeping, Patricia runs up to go wake her up. While the men catch up on the contract Gavin won in his city, Diane wakes up and the ladies are glad to see each other, and soon start chatting about work. Diane reveals she dozed off while prepping for a case, where she will be defending a 16-year-old on trial for murder. They hear some people shouting downstairs, and guess it will be no other person but Angela and her husband. The ladies walk downstairs to meet their husbands watching the quarrelsome couple. When Angela sees them, she starts whining about Patricia's idea to come up for a vacation in a snowy place. While on the journey, Sheila takes a break and stares towards the snowy mountain in front of her. She says a prayer, requesting God help her in the course of her journey to save her marriage, as she stares at the roadmap in her hands. At the vacation house, Patricia and Diane question Angela for always starting fights with her husband. She defends herself by narrating the incident at Keisha's house when they went to drop off Marcus's kids. She doesn't fancy the idea of leaving her daughter with Keisha's son. Though the kids are siblings, Keisha wouldn't desist from filling up her little girl with negative words about her, and she has spoken to Marcus about it. Meanwhile, Marcus and Terry are out in the snow chopping some wood and talking about Marcus's barber shop. Next, they talk about the individual problems they have been encountering in their marriage with Diane, having no time for Terry and Angela's consistent fights with Marcus. Marcus moves towards Terry as he confesses to having slept with another woman, and now, he thinks he has caught some sort of infection. Terry agrees to call his nurse to come give him a shot, but then, he suggests Marcus should man up and confess to his wife so she can get checked as well. He refuses, because this is like trying to get murdered. Gavin comes to pack up the logs they've chopped when Mike arrives with Trina. They all drop the wood, wondering why Mike is with another woman instead of Sheila. They meet him by the door, and all three of them continuously stare at him questioningly in an attempt to figure out who the lady with him is. Angela and her friends suddenly open the door, all three of them having the same look on their faces as Mike greets them, while Trina simply stands there, smiling as she admires the scenery before her. Patricia finally pops the question, and Trina introduces herself as a friend to the couple. Mike apologizes for not pre-informing them that Sheila invited Trina when she found out that there would be an extra bedroom. Angela cuts Diane midway as she attempts to welcome Trina. She lays it before Trina that she will have to come up with some money for the trip. Diane asks Mike about Sheila's whereabouts, and they are all dazed by his response. What sort of man would make his wife drive while he flies on a plane with her friend to the same destination? Mike defends himself and blames it all on Sheila's weight. Everyone wears a disappointed look as they face him squarely, especially Angela. He shuts them up and warns Trina to be careful with Angela, the bitter one, and blames his baldness on her hair product. Angela tells Trina to be careful indeed, because she also kicks asses. Mike reminds them that no matter how far the journey is, Sheila is literally a big girl, so she can take care of herself. He makes his way inside the house, leaving the rest of them outside. Marcus attempts to be a gentleman as he assists Trina in carrying her luggage, but Angela intercepts him and sternly informs him that Trina can carry her own bag. The concerned ladies try to reach out to Sheila, but it keeps going to her voicemail. They watch Trina feeling so comfortable chatting with the men, while they gossip about this so-called friend of Sheila's, who couldn't drive with her friend but chose to follow her husband instead. Besides, that is exactly what they would have done. Patricia suggests they find out what's going on before passing judgment, but Angela refuses to agree with her because she doesn't like Trina. The journey seems not to be ending, but Sheila encourages herself and changes the music to something more uplifting, before the song pushes her to drive off the bridge. It's nighttime already, and everyone is sitting in pairs with their partners, while Trina is standing close by with Mike, chatting. Gavin reveals that Patricia won the award, and it will be happening in 8 months. Patricia invites them all to DC so they can all celebrate her success together. Marcus and Angela get into another bout of arguments about her planning to drink to her friend's win, and about him getting a job so he can pay the mortgage. The exchange of words between them is about to get serious, and the others have to interrupt them. They chide Angela for going below the belt and dumping all they've learned in handling disagreements as couples. Angela shifts the focus from herself to Trina and Mike, who are whispering and giggling. Patricia invites Trina to come join them in the kitchen, but she declines, as she prefers staying with the boys because she's not so good with kitchen activities. Angela strongly insists that she has to join them in the kitchen. Trina stares at her in disbelief. Immediately after the ladies step out, Gavin thanks Mike for ruining the week for all of them, and he blames it on them for lacking the ability to tame their women. Terry blames him for leaving Sheila to drive all by herself, and instead of feeling remorseful, he makes a joke out of it that he should have made her walk. Gavin wonders who Trina is, and Mike gives the boys the impression that something is going on between himself and Trina. Marcus hails him for having the guts to even bring her to their gathering. The boys get into some debate about cheating on their wives. Marcus and Mike defend their side strongly, as they try to make the other two see reasons why they can cheat on their women and keep it hidden from them. Sheila drives through the snowy night until she enters Pemberton. She stops by the sheriff's station to find out how she's going to get to Lake Leland. Troy directs her on the path to go, but he refuses to allow her to drive up there, because there are a couple of trees on the path, and there is no way she can get up there until the next day. Sheila sits down, looking distraught, knowing that she can't even get a hotel by that time of the night. She accepts his offer to pass the night in the cell. Troy offers her some coffee while they talk about their personal lives. Sheila realizes Troy's dad owns the house they are renting, and they lost the old man the previous year. He wonders why she had to drive to the couple's retreat alone, and she reveals the reason. She discovers that Troy is divorced. At the house, Marcus bids Angela goodnight immediately after he gets on the bed. He notices that she's putting on lingerie and has a dirty smile on her face. He knows what's coming for him, but he wants to avoid getting intimate. Angela gets pissed seeing that he's turning her down, which is something he doesn't do. In Diane and Terry's room, she rants about Mike's actions, while Terry is feeling all cuddly. He reminds her that they are there for themselves, and not for Mike. He attempts to make love to his wife, but she prevents him from going further because she's worried about Sheila, who has been unreachable. Terry stares at her speechlessly. He tries to express his dislike for her attitude, but he restrains himself and angrily lays on his back. Gavin and Patricia are having a cozy time in their bed. He tries to bring up the topic of kids, and Patricia diverts his attention from that as she begins to share how much she loves him. Angela decides to read, as her husband has denied her intimacy, and she needs to divert her attention until sleep comes. She suddenly hears a door creaking, then footsteps and shadows, and she gets up from her bed to take a peek at what it could be. To her amazement, it's Mike trying to sneak into Trina's room in the middle of the night. The next morning, the ladies are in the kitchen preparing breakfast when Angela shares what she saw last night with her friends. Patricia and Diane try to dissuade her from telling Sheila, especially in her current state. The boys enter the kitchen along with Trina, all talking simultaneously. Trina compliments Angela's meal by saying she belongs in the kitchen. But Angela snaps back at her before she can finish talking by asking if she needs a pimp, because she belongs in the corner. Trina keeps mute, looking from Mike to Angela. Marcus joins them on the table, and Angela angrily dumps his breakfast in front of him while everyone watches in silence. Patricia breaks the silence, asking Mike if he has called Sheila, but Trina interjects that she's sure Sheila is fine by herself. Angela tackles her answering a question she isn't asked. The ladies get into a fit, about to throw punches at each other, but Marcus sits enjoying his breakfast, unbothered about the chaos. Right on time, Sheila walks into the house, joyfully greeting everyone. They all quiet down and welcome her while she reveals how Troy took care of her. Angela won't let that slide, and she taunts Mike for letting another man take care of his woman. They welcome Troy to join them for breakfast, and he hands a package he received on Terry's behalf, due to the storm the previous night. Sheila introduces Troy to Trina and also informs her that he's single. She tells her to take the seat beside Terry so Troy can sit beside her husband. The ladies whisper about the look on Trina's face amongst themselves. Mike makes a naughty remark which gets Angela upset, so she angrily walks out of the kitchen. Almost immediately, the phone line rings, and Diane picks it up. Terry hears her mention Monica's name, so he knows it's a work call. She looks at her husband and sees him looking at her. Not minding that he isn't pleased that she's attending work while on their retreat, Diane walks up to him, demanding to know why he told Monica not to call him. Terry reminds her they are on vacation, and refuses to spare her a minute to talk to him privately. He starts a conversation with Troy, completely ignoring her. Later in the day, the ladies go shopping, and Angela is hovering all over Trina and Sheila, while antagonizing Trina at every given opportunity. Patricia and Diane walk behind the trio, discussing her confrontation with Terry earlier. In the course of their shopping, Sheila starts blaming herself for adding too much weight to the extent that Mike looks at her in disgust. She thinks she's the problem with her marriage. Her girls gather around her, consoling her not to blame herself. Angela gets pissed and attempts to reveal everything to Sheila, but doesn't thanks to the timely intervention of the others, who shut her up before she can spill anything. Sheila suspects they are hiding something. She tries to get Angela to talk, but Trina intercepts them as she brings a dress. She thinks Mike will like it on Sheila. Angela gets furious, and the others rush towards her to quiet her down. Sheila angrily yells at her for being mean to Trina all the time before walking out to catch up with her friend. Judging from her reaction, her friends know for certain that Sheila isn't ready to handle the truth between her husband and her friend. At night, Sheila walks into her room wearing the nightwear Trina suggested Mike would like on her. She sits on the bed, smiling and hoping he will like it, but to her dismay, he makes a mockery of her in the wear. She defeatedly confesses that she loves him, and she wants to know what she must do to make their marriage work. He sarcastically informs her to start by losing 50 pounds, and he might start getting attracted to her. Sheila sits, feeling less of herself as she listens to her husband make a joke of her. Over at Diane's room, she decides to have a conversation with Terry and why he has an issue with Monica calling her. Terry informs her that he's aware she's intentionally making up excuses for them not to have sex because she doesn't want more kids. He bids her goodnight, because he knows she's not ready to have that conversation. Diane knows her husband isn't far from the truth, so she quietly gets on the bed. The following morning, the guys are out playing a game, and Terry informs Marcus of his lab results. He advises him to not sleep with Angela until the treatments kick in, probably in the next 4-5 days. The guys debate on the issue of Marcus informing Angela about his infidelity, sharing their different views on the subject matter. Troy joins them for dinner, and as they all chat while eating, Terry throws subtle shade at Diane, who might not join them in their outing later because she has to check on her work. On the other end, Mike continually feels jealous, seeing that Troy is making Trina giggle frequently. He tries to mark his territory without raising suspicions from his wife. Angela uses the opportunity to shade him, and suggests Troy take Trina out on a ride later. Mike insists that Trina will go nowhere with Troy, and Angela asks that he tell everyone why two single people can't go out together. She refuses the plea from her friends to desist from what she is about to do. She suddenly drops the bombshell. Everyone keeps quiet, awaiting the next reaction. Sheila laughs and refuses to believe Angela's revelation, until Trina confirms it. Seeing how messy the situation has gotten, Troy attempts to leave, but Terry refuses to allow him. Mike confirms to his wife that it's true, and in an attempt to get back at Angela, he spills the secrets of the others, starting with Terry. Mike reveals how Terry suspects his daughter isn't his. So he carried out a DNA test, and Diane had her tubes tied up after she had Kenya, yet she didn't tell her husband. Patricia and Marcus warn him to quiet down and stop trying to damage other people's happiness because he got exposed. Mike refuses to stop, as he goes on to talk about Gavin, who came crying to his house about how his wife was stupid enough not to strap their son in his car seat. Angela warns him to shut up, and Marcus knows he's the next on Mike's list. As expected, Mike exposes how Terry had to give Marcus a shot because he has contracted an infection. Marcus falls into her trap, admitting he got infected from his baby mama. Angela thinks she might as well just let the cat out of the bag, since he's been sleeping with Keisha. She reveals that he got the infection from Walter because she slept with him. She had herself injected and was just waiting for him to say something. Everywhere becomes still for some seconds, until Marcus attacks Angela in an attempt to strangle her neck. Fortunately, the people around come to her rescue. Marcus walks into his room, raging with anger. As soon as they succeed in calming Angela, Mike openly calls Trina baby, asking her to go pack up so they can leave. He turns to Sheila and apologizes that she had to hear of his relationship that way, but then he wants a divorce. With no remorse whatsoever, he tells her that she can keep the rental property and her car while he figures everything else out. In an outburst, Sheila hits Mike on the back of his head with a bottle as he turns to leave. She takes her coat and walks out of the house angrily. Everyone is too emotionally drained to do anything. They just watch as Mike lies lifeless on the floor until Terry decides to go get his medical bag. Sheila heads for the cell she slept in. She sits down, looking distraught, when Troy comes in. She asks if she murdered Mike, so maybe he's there to arrest her. Luckily she didn't, but he's going to have to deal with a serious headache. Sheila pours out her frustration and confusion, because she doesn't know where to start her life, especially since Mike has emptied her bank account, and she has just $87 to her name. Troy tries to comfort her and offers to go show her something. The following morning, the couples pack their bags, all set to leave. They see Angela off. Terry confronts Sheila the moment they are alone in their car. He explains the reason he had DNA done was because she was so busy that they only had sex once when she got pregnant. Diane asks for the result and sighs heavily when he reveals that their child is his. Terry tries to make her say why she asked, but she completely ignores him. Troy takes Sheila to the mountaintop covered in snow. He usually comes there to clear his head. She bursts into tears as she wonders what she ever did wrong to Mike to betray her that way, knowing that she has built her whole life around him. Meanwhile, Patricia and Gavin aren't having the best time after the incident. He insists on them talking about it, and she breaks down and blames herself for the loss of their son. He comforts his wife, and they end up sorting out their issues. Keisha comes looking for Marcus at the saloon, but Angela sees her first, and a fight ensues between the ladies. Marcus gets to them in time to separate them. Angela calls her girls, ranting about murdering Keisha, but Diane tries to calm her down, and then announces to them that Sheila is on the phone. Sheila reveals that Mike has her cell phone off, and now she's working in a general store. The girls are surprised to hear that. Each of them offers to assist, but Sheila refuses, stating that she wants to do it all on her own. She soon bids them bye, and also asks Diane to relay her birthday greetings to Terry. Diane is taken by surprise, as she had forgotten about Terry's birthday. She ends the call and packs up to head home. At the general store owned by Troy's late dad, he joins Sheila, carrying some goods. They seem to be getting pretty close, and she is beginning to find him attractive, and can't take her eyes away from his body. She is completely lost in her world, until Troy calls her back to reality. On the ride to pick up the kids from Keisha's, Marcus endures Angela nagging until he can take it no more. He pulls her out of the car and reminds her how he started the business with his money, and the times he has always been with her when she had nothing, simply because he loves her. Now she thinks he's with her because of the money. Just then, Keisha comes out to make another scene. He sternly warns her to respect his wife and desist from saying things to his kids about her. He puts an end to their relationship and gets his kids seated in the car. Angela hasn't seen Marcus this way before. She watches as he angrily walks away from her. The issues between Terry and Diane aren't getting any better, as Diane comes home to meet his worker having dinner with him. She discovers that they are having an affair, which leads to a heated session of arguments between them. Terry gives up on the marriage, since everything is about her career. He takes off his ring and announces that he's moving out of their house. Sheila and Troy are at a restaurant, and she attempts to put a stop to them hanging out, because she's already falling for him. Troy reveals he's also gradually coming to love her and her personality. He gets up and places a kiss on her lips. She pulls back, as she starts feeling things she hasn't felt in a long time. She confesses that she needs to pray, and suggests he join her. He looks at her weirdly, but accepts her proposition, unknown to him that her hormones are raging. Angela and Diane come to visit Patricia at the school where she lectures. She panics on seeing them, thinking something bad must have happened to Sheila. The ladies reveal that their husbands left them, and they don't know how to handle it. Patricia chides them for refusing to be vulnerable to their men. She advises them to reach out to their husbands and set things right. The ladies refuse, so she decides to give them an exercise to work on. She hands each of them a piece of paper and asks them to list the good and bad things their husbands have done on each side. If the bad outweighs the good, then they've got to let go. But if the good outweighs the bad, they need to get their asses up to fix their marriage. The men converge at S Pub later in the evening. As soon as Gavin joins them, Terry asks ideas from him on ways they could murder their wives. Gavin watches his drunk friends as they talk about their marital crises, especially Mike, who has now realized that he lost a good woman for Trina, who doesn't know how to do anything except shop. The next day, Marcus gets back home to find out that Angela prepared a table of different dishes for him. As soon as he enters the bathroom, he calls on Gavin, informing him that Angela hasn't said 2 words to him since they got back, and now, she's cooked. He believes she wants to poison him. Gavin laughs and advises him to spit out the food if it tastes funny, because Angela can be crazy sometimes. Marcus gets back to the table, but he barely touches his food. She complains about it, and he reveals why he's finding it hard to eat her food. She assures him she's not up to anything, and simply wants them to make up. He lists out some conditions if she wants their marriage to work. She agrees to every one of the conditions, and they reconcile their marriage, promising to love each other. Diane walks into Terry's apartment and sees him with his worker Pem. She ignores the lady and seeks her husband's forgiveness. She admits to being stupid for not realizing that she loves him. Terry asks why she heaved a sigh of relief when he told her the result of the DNA test, and she reveals she just wanted to get back at him. He keeps a straight face and confesses that Pem is pregnant with twins, and he's the father. She takes a pause, but then she doesn't want to lose her marriage, so she admits she's willing to work things out with him. Seeing that Diane is serious about working things out with him regardless of the pregnancy, he reveals that Pem isn't pregnant. He simply wanted to get back at her. Diane heaves a heavy sigh of relief when she realizes that Pem has a boyfriend. The couple kiss each other, and she urges him to come back home. The day for Patricia's award gala celebration finally comes, and they all gather with their spouses to celebrate with her. Angela is about to throw some haughty words at Mike when she sees Trina with him, but Diane interrupts her on time, dragging her away. Moments later, Trina enters the ladies' room to freshen up, and she comes face to face with Sheila, who looks different. Sheila is surprised to see her there, but she maintains her cool, smiling and exposing all she had thought she would do to her the next time she sees her. But right now she just feels like praying for her. She wishes Trina a good evening and warns her with a smile not to tempt her before walking away. In the men's washroom, Mike bumps into Troy, not expecting to see him there. Troy reveals he's at the event with his wife to support Patricia. Just then, Sheila joins her husband. Mike looks so shocked to see both of them. Sheila finally meets with her friends, and the ladies do some quick catching up. His support has helped her lose weight. Meanwhile, the men make a joke about Mike for losing Sheila to Troy. During the event, Mike apologizes to Sheila, who sternly warns him to back off and stay with Trina. She turns around to concentrate on Patricia's speech. After the speech, Gavin joins his wife while she sings his praises to everyone's hearing. They all applaud and celebrate her success.